And if we get called names, because we don't dismiss these revolutions, we should have the courage to say we will not be ideological pawns. We will take lessons from wherever they will help us do better than capitalism. The question was about an interview given by Emanuel Wallerstein on RT television today. He said that capitalism is coming to the end of a 500-year cycle. I have great respect for Professor Wallerstein. He's done wonderful work. He has much to teach. But when I hear my esteemed colleagues talking about waves of development running 500 years, my eyes glaze over. Maybe he's right. But I guess we'll have to wait to see. Meanwhile, I am sure that capitalism's future is more in your hands now, more dependent on the crisis inside it, and the opposition building against it, than on any long cycles we could imagine. When Marx wrote his critique, his image of capitalism's end was not that it was attacked from outside, was not that it was in danger from terrorists. Marx's argument is that capitalism would survive unless and until the internal contradictions, the things about it that undermine each other, make it collapse. And make the people who live in that collapse declare that a new and different system has to be begun. That's what's looming here. And Marx, if he were here today, would have a big grin. And probably say, in good German, I told you so. I noticed that over the last 3 weeks, the stalwart capitalist news agency that has the same name as the mayor of New York, and that's not a coincidence. The Bloomberg News Service has carried two stories praising the insights of Karl Marx. When Bloomberg discovers Marx, capitalism is in deep doo-doo. Define money. And talk about the mint. And creating money. Let me answer by very briefly making sure we all understand how money is created now. Two agencies determine the quantity of money in circulation. The first is a half government, half private agency called the Federal Reserve. They, at the top, have a board of governors. 12 bankers. Led by a professor of economics. Named Bernanke. They decide how much money will be created. That means they decide how many dollar bills to print. And 50s. And hundreds. And nickels. All of it. Bernanke calls the mint. He announces the decision. We 12 governors think it would be a good idea that there be $20 billion more dollars circulating. Roll the presses. That's it. They do not have to get the permission, not of the president, not of the Congress, not of the Supreme Court. They don't have to have any backing. There doesn't need to be any gold. They can print it as they see fit. Over the last 4 years, terrified by the collapse of capitalism here, they have increased the amount of money by hundreds of billions of dollars. No one knows what the full consequences of this may be. In the short run, it boosts the economy a bit. Most of that money went into the stock market and bid up the prices. That was good for shareholders. Little of the money went into the economy, which is why we don't have any lessening of unemployment and all the suffering that goes with it. The question is, what might happen if all that extra money began being used to buy things? Then we would have too much money chasing too few goods. And the people with money would bid up the price of everything. That's called an inflation. All around the world. One of the great fears is that a dysfunctional capitalism is trying desperately to print its way out of a depression and thereby threatening to plunge us into an inflation. This is a system that is out of control. Far better would be to have a new democratically controlled agency of government whose decisions about money were governed by what we all need and want, not by a handful of giant banks who now dominate our economic and monetary system.
Okay, you and then you.
How does war and things like we're in New York City, how does war and 9/11 play into this stuff? Because we're talking about macro issues, and there's greed and there's corruption and there's suffering, but I personally have a hard time believing that we could be that against ourselves because information is so accessible and you don't know what is reliable. And what is your opinion and comment to that?
This question had many parts. But I'm going to focus on the opening point, which concerns war. And its relation to all of this. This is more complicated than we often face. On the one hand, we are spending trillions with a T on four wars. Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Libya, not to speak of lesser actions elsewhere. Part of our view is that we can see that we would be better off using that money to maintain the quality of life and improve the quality of life for most Americans rather than killing people over there. However, we have half a century of making the American economy dependent on production for war. To dismantle that is a task capitalist corporations do not want to risk. They are making good money producing for war. To really overcome the war, we're back to square one. We have to change organization of our enterprises.
We have to change organization of our enterprises.
The people are ready
The people are ready
to reorganize the economy,
to reorganize the economy,
to end our dependence on war.
to end our dependence on war.
That we have to face,
That we have to face.
otherwise our request
Otherwise, our request
to stop spending on war
to stop spending on war
will be opposed
will be opposed
by millions of Americans
by millions of Americans
persuaded
persuaded
that their jobs
that their jobs
depend on it.
depend on it.
We have an answer.
We have an answer.
The reorganization of an economy
The reorganization of an economy
so their well-being
so their well-being
no longer depends
no longer depends
on oppressing the people of the world.
on oppressing the people of the world.
That's where we have to go.
That's where we have to go.
Sir, knowing that it should be in anyone's best interest here that they could potentially be called a terrorist, is the Patriot Act something that we should be looking at? For instance, if one of you are arrested and they enact the fact that you guys are terrorists, you can be held in court without due process. Does that worry you at all?
The question is,
Question is,
am I worried
am I worried
by the Patriot Act
by the Patriot Act
and the right of the government
and the right of the government
to brand almost anyone
to brand almost anyone
a terrorist,
a terrorist,
arrest that person,
arrest that person,
and hold them
and hold them
indefinitely
indefinitely
with little
little
or no
or no
basic civil rights?
basic civil rights?
I have a simple answer.
I have a simple answer.
Yes.
Yes.
And I would find it strange
And I would find it strange
if everybody wasn't worried.
if everybody wasn't worried
In a country
in a country
that spends a lot of time
that spends a lot of time
defending
defending
and admiring
and admiring
personal freedom.
personal freedom.
We have a government now
We have a government now
to whom we have allowed
to whom we have allowed
attacks
attacks
and deprivations
and deprivations
of our personal freedom
of our personal freedom
on an unprecedented
on an unprecedented
scale.
scale.
That needs to be changed.
That needs to be changed.
And here is an interesting fact.
And here is an interesting fact.
At the other end of the political spectrum,
At the other end of the political spectrum,
there is a sizable group
there is a sizable group
of people
of people
who, for different reasons,
who, for different reasons,
are equally worried
are equally worried
about this loss
about this loss
of personal freedom.
of personal freedom.
Not the least,
Not the least,
innovation
innovation
in a new left American politics
in a new left American politics
would be an investigation
would be an investigation
about whether we might work
about whether we might work
with some of our libertarian adversaries,
with some of our libertarian adversaries,
at least to limit
at least to limit
the power of a government
the power of a government
subservient to corporations
subservient to corporations
that we don't want
that we don't want
to have anything like that power.
to have anything like that power.
I'm losing my voice.
I'm losing my voice.
Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for your